This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
Welcome back to the program. 8 minutes now after the hour of 2 o'clock on a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday afternoon. So we got some results of a poll here, and this is a poll that was conducted by it was conducted by Advantage Inc. for the Conservative Fiscal Alliance Foundation here in Massachusetts. And it shows essentially that people in Massachusetts feel they're pretty tapped out and don't feel like they could pay more in taxes and fees, even if it is to support policies that they might like. Okay, people in Massachusetts feel pretty tapped out and just don't want any more fees or taxes. Among the issues polled were the bevy of tax or fees ideas that Transportation Secretary Monica Tibbetts Nutt floated last month in a speech that got her in trouble with Healy. The secretary said that she was considering proposing tolls at the state border, adding new fees to package deliveries, increasing fees on transportation network company rides, upping the auto excise tax, and increasing the payroll tax. More than 60% of the respondents say they supported none of the ideas. 25% said they supported one or two of the secretary's suggestions. About 10% said they supported three or four. 4% said they support all of them. The tolls at the state border got the most support. The idea of putting tolls at the state border, that got the most support from respondents. Since people are tapped and don't want to pay any more, tolls are at the border are kind of a way to shift some of that to people coming into the state that makes sense to some of these folks, I guess. Slightly more Massachusetts voters think the state is headed in the wrong direction, 43%, then think the state is headed in the right direction, 40%. Most voters, 50%, 50.5%, have a strong or somewhat favorable view of Maura Healey. That's up from when a Fiscal Alliance poll asked the same question in February and found that 46.32% had either a strong or slightly favorable view of Healey. This is kind of similar to the poll we had last week. 54% support Healey, and I think 48% said the state is heading in the right direction. So they're not too far off here from each other. 52.6% have a strongly or somewhat favorable opinion of Joe Biden. 52.6. People in Massachusetts just never learn, do they? While the majority of voters, 53%, said they have a strong unfavorable opinion of Donald Trump. So, never ever learn. 508-996-0500. Thanks for hanging on. You're up next on WBSM.
Is that me, Barry?
That's you, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, listen, I'm calling you from my car, but don't worry, I'm pulled over.
Okay.
Safely. I'm not driving. Do you mind if I mention this show, Survivor?
No, not at all. I'm waiting for tonight for the grand finale.
The grand finale. As you know, I called you last year on this, and I told you that I record all 13 episodes.
Yep.
and then I started watching it. Sunday, I have a 3-night and watch it in 3 days.
Yep.
And, the show is trying to be politically correct, right?
Yes.
And you got Jeff saying, come on in. But he won't say, come on in, guys.
Like he used to do, yeah.
Right? He stopped there.
Yeah.
But, prior to me becoming a Christian, I used to use the F word a lot, and it slipped out of my tongue like nothing. But when I became a Christian, I couldn't do that no more. But I had to kill the habit. So to compensate for using the F word, I will use the heck word. You know what I mean? Everything the heck with this, and I didn't think heck was bad. But I will overcompensate, and I use that word a lot. And I noticed that Jeff and Survivor is doing the same thing. Because if you watch the shows one after the other, one thing you pick on now, he calls people losers or losing. And he keeps using that word. And I'm surprised somebody has not been triggered by it.
Yeah. Good point. I hadn't even picked up on that. You know what? The whole thing is troubling to me. And I think this is probably the worst season yet. I don't like any of the people there. Most of the people I don't like. And, it's not their fault. I mean, they are who they are. But it used to be back in the day in tryouts for the show, they would pick the most competitive, the ones that are going to be sneaky and conniving and everything else. I mean, it's a game. And now they don't do that anymore. Now it's all they look for people with issues. Or they look for people who represent a certain community. You got to have the poor lesbian from India. You know what I mean? And then you got to have the gay black actor from New York, and all of this kind of stuff. So and it's everybody's got a sad story, and everybody's going to cry and everything else. And it really has lost the heart and soul of what Survivor used to be, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not like the old one. Now you got 5 people looking for the idols, and that it kills the show. They have too many twists and turns.
But it's all just centered around the game. Before, they would have bad weather. It would rain. Does it not rain on this island anymore? I mean, remember at night they'd be sitting there shivering and freezing, and you'd have there was at one point there was a hurricane. They had to get evacuated off the island. Remember? And there was another season when the camp got flooded and washed away and all their food. There was another one when they were in Africa where animals were coming up to their thing at night. Does none of that happen anymore? And it seems like they're always giving away food to people. Oh, this week we've got Applebee's, and we got pizza delivery. So it's not the same.
That's true. And one, they tell there was one tribe. They claimed that they hadn't eaten for 11 days, and they put them on a challenge, and they're running like they just had a hamburger. And like you're saying, it's because I don't think they show that part where they feed them.
Yeah.
And they say, I've been 11 days without eating. But, Barry, there's no way you're going to go 11 days without eating. Well, and then they put you on a challenge.
Back in the old days, if you remember, these people would lose significant amounts of weight. Remember, they would all lose weight. They get real skinny. Nobody's getting skinny out there. So somebody's feeding these people. Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the early days when so you win a food challenge, which was rare, and you go and you eat like 5 things, and everybody would be sick. Remember, they'd be throwing up because they hadn't eaten in so long and everything. You don't see that anymore. Everybody looks well fed. They've all got their oofs and sandals, and they got their bags now with where the hell do they come up with all these clothes too? It seems like they all have sweaters and all kinds of stuff to change into, and I don't know. It's just I hope they fix it again.
I think that it's changing. It's nothing like but when you see one episode right after the other, a lot of things pop out at you.
Yeah.
And the word loser, Jeff uses it like crazy, calling people losers.
Wow.
Losing. And I figured somebody's going to say, hey, I'm being triggered by that word.
Yeah, because he had to stop using the word guys because people were triggered by that. So he got, like 45 seasons. He said, come on in, guys. And now the last couple of seasons, he can't say it anymore. So, I don't know. It's crazy.
Now he says, come in, losers.
Yeah. My wife's like, why do you still watch that thing? She stopped watching it a few seasons ago. And she's like, why do you still watch it? You hate it and you're always complaining about it. I'm like, because I've been watching it from day one. I haven't missed an episode. And, it's part of who I am, I guess. I don't know. I'd love to go on. I'd love to go on there. I don't know. I'd probably get voted out like within 10 minutes. They'd be tying me to a boat and sending me adrift out there or something. But
well, Barry, thank you for this conversation.
Appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you. Yeah.
You're the one I know that like Survivor, so
yeah, I know it. Nobody I know watches it except me. So and you now. So there you go. Thank you, my friend. 508-996-0500 is our phone number, and let's see. We're going to go this way. Thank you for waiting. You're next on WBSM.
What's going on, Barry?
Hi.
Not bad. Hey, so I got a question on the homeless encampment.
Yeah.
So, considering Councilor Burgo knows how many people are going to be there, does he know how many people are possibly veterans, how many people are mentally ill, how many people are just homeless because they want to be homeless?
Well, he doesn't, in fairness to him, he doesn't know how many people are going to be there. He mentioned that last year's homeless count, they actually go out and count the homeless, identified 373 homeless people, 67 of whom said that they lived on the streets. So, I mean, that's where those numbers came from. He has no idea who had lived there. But no, I don't think he does. And I don't think any of us do. And I think that's important because you can't just put everybody in the same boat because all of the situations are different.
Right. And then on top of that, you don't know how many of those people are sex offenders. And are you going to allow a woman to encamp there with a sex offender? Now, who would be liable for that, seeing that the city sanctions this?
Well, there would be, no, you're right. I mean, liability is something I hadn't even thought about. But I mean, certainly crime would be an issue, something to be concerned about in an encampment. And I did ask him yesterday during the interview about if I get some time later, I'll play the interview again. It's only 6 minutes for those who missed it yesterday. But I asked him about issues like crime and health and various things like that. And he said, well, we'd be able to put the experts in there in a bit. So now we're talking about a staffed camp that would have police. And
right. So is this going to be a line item on the budget that he's proposing? Like what?
No, this is at the very, very preliminary stages right now. He's got a report.
No, I understand that. No, I'm saying if he's going to throw out, we're going to staff it. Oh, now we're putting a line item on the budget. And, this is what happens when Marlene Pollack from the Coalition for Social Justice is the puppet master of a counselor.
Yeah, I mean, this is all the same group. Yeah, no question about it. But what he said is, what he said is there are social groups in the city that he says this would not cost us any money. There are social organizations like PACA and others that are currently spending money on the homeless situation that would just transfer that money to this. Now, that sounds good, but I don't think that that's realistic because if you have first of all, if word gets out, there's a new tent encampment in New Bedford. You'd have people from Boston, Providence, Cape Cod, everywhere that's looking for a place to hang out because there's safety in numbers, right? Particularly when you're in a vulnerable group. So you would move to this encampment. We'd have no way of knowing who was from New Bedford and who wasn't. We have no idea who's bringing what kind of medical issues or criminal backgrounds or other issues into this encampment. So you would have to have a police presence there.
Right. And now you're taking resources away from other areas that are in dire need of police enforcement, say.
All right, so I'm in agreement with everything you said. I'm in agreement with your sentiment. So let me ask you this. What do we do with these people?
What do? You pass them on to nonprofits. This is why we have nonprofits, Barry.
Yeah, but this is what's happening. You can't make... I mean, you drive down Route 18, you see the blue tarps in the trees, right? Yep. People are sleeping out there in the tent. You can't make those people go to a social agency.
No, I agree. But you keep them moving, right? Keep them moving. If they don't feel stable and that they aren't wanted and that they're not hiding, because a lot of them feel invisible, right? So they hide in these bushes, they hide in the woods, they feel like they're not seen. But if they know that they're being seen by law enforcement, they're going to move along. They're going to move along because they don't want to be. It's not like they don't want to be a nuisance, but they just.
But who's
going to
move them around? I mean, are we going to have a special police? I mean, we got 373 people. We're going to have a special police force that's going to be out there just moving homeless people around?
No. That's just part of the task of being. If a cruiser's driving by and they see an encampment, stop in with a couple guys, say, "Hey, pack it up, move along."
Well, that's what they're doing. Supposedly,
Right.
that's what they're doing.
And I think that if you enforce it more and do it more prolifically, I think you'll end up ultimately eliminating
but
the
does
problem.
that solve the problem? It doesn't
community.
solve the problem that we have. And even if you move them along, where do you move them to? So if you move them off of Route 18, then they go in the woods behind Dunkin' Donuts. Or they go, up on the hill at Buttonwood Park, Brookline Park, behind the library. They go near the, the Veterans Building in Buttonwood Park. They just move from one place to another. So you're not you're not addressing the issue. You're just moving it from one block to the other.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, when we start to say we have to address the issue, that's more taxes.
Well, I mean, you got to do something. I mean, you don't want a tent city. You don't want them out there on the side of the highway or in the parks. What are we going to do about this? I mean, we have a problem with, according to the last figures, 373 people. What do we do with these people? You can't throw them in jail.
Right. So let's tell the churches that don't pay taxes to the city of New Bedford. Listen.
Yeah, but that's over. Wait a minute, hold on, because that's overly simplistic. We have enough programs in the city, and we have churches that do have outreach. The problem is that you can't make people come in from the cold. You can't make them.
No, I agree.
So, I mean, you got people out there. I don't know, of that 373 people, what percentage of these people are addicted to drugs or whatever, or alcohol, but they don't want, or maybe they've got mental illness and they don't trust being indoors. So you can't make them go indoors. The programs are there. I've seen the police chief go into these groups of people and talk to them, tell them about programs. And there are constantly people going around from programs into these groups trying to get them inside, but they can't get them in, and you can't force them according to the law.
Right. No, I understand it, and that's I think the biggest issue is you can't force them into like a mental institution if they're mentally ill. I mean, this is a big problem that we have, and unfortunately, sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, we have a homeless problem, and there's nothing we can, because you can't force them. But if you out of a city of 100,000 people, and there's only 300 people that are homeless.
373. That's closer to 400 than
400, right? 400 that are homeless. You could probably take half of them and find them a spot. Maybe I don't think 400 people are refusing shelter. I don't think it's the entire lot of them. There's a probably small subset.
But those the numbers change all the time. It's not like we take 373 people every day. But keep in mind, too, these numbers were from last year. This was from the 2023 count. So we don't know how many are out there now. And it changes all the time. There are people that are coming and going. We have people that come here from other communities because they know they can get programs here. They can get fed here. They can get what they need here. They can buy drugs here. So people are coming and going in this community all the time. Sometimes it's larger, sometimes it's smaller. My guess would be during the summer months, it's probably larger. We're a nice place to be during the summer, right? Right along the ocean, and something like so. Maybe down south, cities are busier during the winter. So it's an ever-changing population. We don't know who they are. So either we do something with them or we do nothing with them. And when we do nothing with them, that's when you have people downtown urinating in storefronts. See, I mean, I'm not looking to be, I'm not looking to argue with you. I'm just simply saying that the solution is never as simple as it sounds. People will say, well, stop giving them giveaways. Don't give them things and it'll go away. Well, no, that's not quite the case. We have an entire generation of people, not a whole generation, but we have a whole class of people in this country now that are addicted to these synthetic drugs that we never had before. And we got to do something with them, but what? I mean, this isn't like getting somebody into AA and getting them to give up drinking. This is something totally different that we've never dealt with before. And we're not doing anything to stop it because more and more every day, more and more people are getting addicted to these things. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. But
It's a tough one.
I agree with you that it's not a homeless encampment, though. I don't think that's the
That's 100% not the right.
Yeah,
way to go.
it isn't. But we can't just say
it'd be actually exactly just like you were saying earlier. Also with the safe injection sites, it's the same idea.
Yes,
it's like you're trying to solve a problem by making it okay to do it in this particular location. It's not how you solve a problem.
See, and that's what liberalism does. I mean, liberalism will try to feed the problem with money and to, in the case of a safe injection site, by accommodating you because, well, we don't want you to die. We don't want you to, so we're going to give you the safe injection site. Next thing you know, we're going to give you the drugs because you don't have any money and you can't take the drugs and so on and so forth. So we'll give you the needles. We'll give you this. No, that doesn't solve the problem. That just facilitates people and it keeps the problem progressing. And the same thing with the homeless thing. If you set up a homeless tent city, that doesn't help the people move to the next phase of your life.
You're literally going to attract more people.
Yeah.
And actually multiply the problem.
No, and if I'm somebody who's addicted to opioids, and I'm like, oh, wow, I just hit the lottery. I don't have to worry about sleeping under a bridge somewhere, or maybe getting mugged or molested or killed. I've got a nice little safe place over here, a community. They're going to give me water. They're going to give me food, police protection. When do I move in?
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah,
Crazy.
so, I mean, that's not the answer, but we can't just leave them on the street because they're a threat, too. They're a threat to, you go downtown and there's people peeing and pooping all over the place. And, they're a threat to public health. They're a threat to society. They scare tourists away. So, I mean, you got to do something with them. I don't know what the answer is, but I think we need to start figuring it out somehow.
Yeah, and, initially, I think, you look at other communities, right? You look at Dartmouth, you look at Westport, they don't have the homeless encampments. They don't have homelessness problem.
There's a couple of reasons for that, though.
It's an urban, right?
Yeah, but there's a couple of reasons for that. The programs get centered in urban locations like New Bedford and Fall River and that. So it's, if you are homeless and you don't have transportation, but yet you need, I don't know, methadone or you need, the clinic or you need whatever, it's here. So it's easier for you to camp here and to be here where the programs are. And the more programs you have, the more people you're going to attract to your city. And I know the police chief. I was with the chief downtown, and he was telling me these people, what happens is they come here for the programs, and they don't have any money to get home again. So they kind of like get stuck here.
Yeah, they're in limbo. They end up in limbo.
Yeah.
Crazy, Barry.
Good call. Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. 508-996-0500 is the phone number. And if I get time for another, let's grab one more before the break. And you're next on WBSM. Thanks for hanging on.
Hello, Barry. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, good. I've been a healthcare provider since 1976. And just to give people a little bit of history on how this whole thing got started, in the 70s, they decided to get rid of a hospital, a psychiatric hospital where people can live. It's been a very big failure because some people are just not able to live on their own.
Yeah.
They felt they could, because some of the new drugs came out at that time. For schizophrenia, the lithium came out, new drugs that they felt was going to be very, very promising and cure the mental health issues. So what happened was they deinstitutionalized all of these places. And yes, there were some problems. However, for the most part, Barry, Brockton State Hospital and Taunton State Hospital, people did have a place to stay. They had a job. They had a job in that facility. They went on field trips. There was some structure for their safety. So
yeah, but you also had the Supreme Court decide that you cannot detain somebody in that way against their will, and that's the problem we have now. I know
that is the problem.
Well, I mean, the Massachusetts legislature a few years ago, and I can remember having conversations with Representative Haddad about this on many occasions. Under the Patrick administration, there was actually a proposal to take people in against their will and detain them in hospitals for drug treatment and not rehab, but detox and all of that. And then the question arose again, well, first of all, we don't have any space to do this. But second of all, it's a violation of their constitutional rights. We can't hold people against their will.
Where it got really bad, like you were saying about holding people against their will, is there is no benefit to releasing them into society. They cannot successfully live on their own. They can't pay the bills. They have to search for food.
Yeah.
Someone has to advocate for these folks to keep them institutionalized or in a residential home or something. Once they start feeling better, too, here's another part of it, is that then they refuse the meds. Now, we can't make them take their meds, so you're always going to square one. You're always repeating, treatment over and over and over because it isn't forced and it's hard. There has to be a consequence to being homeless in some way. Like, okay, we're offering you treatment, we're offering you this. Now you're refusing it, and I was in a very high level care institution for this, an ER. So, like, in those cases, you see an ER is like you have to take everybody and come up with a solution. So a lot of them have said on a cold day, I said, really, listen, just sign yourself in and, get a little help. No, I'm not giving up drugs. I would rather be outside. And we have to, that is their choice. So putting all these folks together, there is a camaraderie. Are they going to start advocating for more rights, saying, oh, now I have a right to be homeless and I want this and that? There has to be a consequence to behavior that is not conducive to health. There has to be. It's heartbreaking for families, for the families of these folks who have tried everything. They are at a breaking point. It's a heartbreaking situation, but in some cases, people's right to harm themselves and be a menace to society over and over and over. I'd like to see that be another look at that.
Absolutely. Excellent stuff. Appreciate your experience and your knowledge. I got to hold you there, though, because I have to get a break in. And I appreciate you calling. Stay in touch with us because I think you bring some expertise to this topic. I've got to take a break, and we're coming right back.
President Karen Spilka.
Yeah.
She's still gnawing at that bone of putting border tolls, especially at New Hampshire border and Cape Cod. She said that state needs to generate more equity funds.
Yeah.
And, and MIT came out with a livable income calculator. And if you're a single person, to live comfortably here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you have to earn $116,000 a year. And a family of four, the two parents and two kids, according to MIT, $347,000 a year that you have to make to live comfortably here in the state of Massachusetts. I mean, first of all, there's lack of job opportunities out there for many people. And then secondly, you got a lot of taxes and a lot of over-regulation that's stifling jobs. And that's a major component, too, that's driving people homeless out in the streets. But in these Democrats, they don't want to tell you that. They're the ones that are creating the problem. And now they want Americans to live in what Chris McCarthy calls concentration camps out there.
Yeah. And that can't be a good thing. It really can't be.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, they tried doing that. I told Tim in California, it didn't work. They had a lot of people there, not so much with tents, but they had, broken down RVs and vans and plywood, and there would be constant fights out there. The police were constantly being called. And the mayor of a particular city, I forget now, put an end to it. They went in there. They got rid of all the broken down vehicles and RVs, and they had to go out of there because it wasn't working. A lot of drugs, dirty needles, the unsanitary conditions, rodents, and all of that things. It was a blight. And, they had to just put an end to it. To think that that's going to work in our city of New Bedford is crazy.
Well, the thing is, you set up a tent city, and whether it's off Sharman Avenue or wherever it is, you got a lot of problems. I mean, you got people who are not necessarily thinking first and foremost about hygiene, and you've got bathroom needs, you've got medical issues that are neglected, not taken care of, or even not even diagnosed. There's so many other issues: drug use, crime,
right.
And there's no way to regulate. We can't even regulate who the hell's coming over the border. And
you're right. It's not too far from the dump. You know what is a lot at a dump? There's a lot of rats. And you don't think rats are going to wander around sniffing around if there's food hanging around?
Well, what kind of contaminants are in the ground there? I mean, all the way up and down that area, Sharman Avenue, you got all of these metal reclamation places, right? The old cars and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, I can't imagine that is a very healthy place to put people to begin with. You drive down that street, you see buzzards in all of the trees. It looks like something out of a horror movie.
Can you imagine, the police and the paramedics and the fire department, if they had to get in there, bags and bags of trash? I mean, that would be a nightmare just for a police officer. I mean, you don't know what kind of diseases, too, you're going to be getting in there. Yeah. We need to find, it's like I told Tim, we need to take care of Americans. But what we're doing is they're busing all these illegals from Logan Airport. They come in and they tell them to sleep at the airport until they get a place to live. So they bust them down here, and then now they're telling us, the taxpayer, you're going to pay more taxes for more homeless people that are going to come from out of state in the Cape, and you even said Providence, and all the illegal aliens that created the housing problem and the shortages. And this is stupid. The Democrats create problems, and then we got to bail it out. And the nerve to think, that it's going to be
the whole idea with them is to just keep spending money, keep throwing more money, and keep the insanity going. Thank you, my friend. I got to hold you right there. I got to hit a break. 508-996-0500. We do this. We're right back on the other side. Stay with us. Guess 1971. Maybe 72. Somewhere a long, long time ago. And Rod Stewart, good album, though. Rod Stewart's been doing a lot of standards and that kind of stuff. He says he feels silly going out at his age. He's in his 70s now and singing Do You Think I'm Sexy and stuff like that. And, honestly, I think his voice can handle the standards a little bit better than some of the old rock and roll stuff. When you get older, I guess your voice doesn't have the same kind of range. Speaking about housing and homelessness and all that kind of stuff, Massachusetts saw a 6.8% increase in home sales last month from April 2023. It's the largest year-over-year increase in sales since June 2021, according to the news service, the State House News Service. The median single-family home sale price also rose within the last year by 9.9%, hitting an all-time April high of $610,000 here in Massachusetts. Can you believe this? And you wonder why people are living on the streets, right? The average single-family home sale price in Massachusetts up 9.9% from a year ago, $610,000. I couldn't even imagine being in debt for that amount. And where do you come up with a down payment for that? $610,000 if you're a young couple. Where do you come up with a down payment for $600,000? I don't even know off the top of my head what a down payment is today. What do they say? Put aside 20% for a down payment? What is 20% of $610,000? My math geek friends text me because I'm lost on that one. The numbers reflect an exceedingly tight market, the result of increasing mortgage rates and building costs, and an uncertain future for state housing in the face of a 200,000 unit shortage. $610,000. I think we're all going to need a tent city pretty soon, don't you? This was an interesting story that I saw this morning as well. This was from WGBH, the public television and radio conglomerate up in Boston. Law enforcement says controversial shot spotter. We have the spot shotter here in New Bedford. It's now called sound thinking. They're saying law enforcement says the technology beneficially detects gunshots, alerting police of gun violence and improving law enforcement response times, especially in places that often don't receive 911 calls about gunfire. But criticism is growing as many are concerned that the technology discriminates against communities of color and may be inaccurate. 13 Massachusetts municipalities, including New Bedford, and one university used the technology, which essentially serves as a microphone and a sensor detecting loud sounds that could be gunfire. Boston City Council is going to have a hearing on the technology to review the benefits and the harm. We've recently reviewed the benefits here in New Bedford, if you remember, and found out that it was working and beneficial. I don't get this. Look, spot shotter, what is it? Shot spotter is put where the shootings are, right? You don't put it up in Sasquin. You know, put it out in Acushnet. People aren't being shot left and right in Acushnet. You put it in the neighborhoods where the shootings are so that you can detect shootings. If somebody wants to complain that that's being racist, well, that's where the shootings are, in those neighborhoods. So, there's that anyway. 508-996-0500. You got about a minute. Can you get your point in a minute?
Yes, Barry. $120,000 for $600,000 home. That's the basic minimum if it's 20%. So 6 times 20.
Wow, $120,000.
That's just for 20%. And the other question about it being an uptick. I know people who are buying homes, but they're living paycheck, but it's a paycheck, because if you look at the houses being bought recently, look at the most recent bought homes in the last 2 or 3 years. They buy them and they can't upkeep. The house is falling apart because they can't upkeep, or they get an older home and they can't upkeep it, period, and it's even worse. So they're basically just hanging on because it's better than paying rent. And I know, like, a lot of people are doing that. Hopefully the market will rise even more, so it gives them a little money so they can move out of the state. That's happening too, Barry.
Wow. Unreal. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks for the help with the math, too. $120,000 down payment in order to buy a $610,000 house. And Paul's absolutely right. The upkeep is the important thing. A lot of people don't even think about that when they're buying a house. I've got to have so much money that I can put away every paycheck toward, needing a new roof or needing a new hot water heater, or the termites eat the porch out in the backyard and I got to get a new porch or whatever. There's always something when you own a house. It never, ever stops. And I can remember when I had my house and the wind would blow the fence down and you call the insurance company, do you really want to put in that claim? Because if you do, we might have to cancel you out. So, you've always got to have money. And you can't say, I'm going to put off upkeep, because if you put off upkeep, the problems get worse and they compound. And then it becomes a bigger problem. You can't sell the house for what you paid for it because it's in need of repair. It's a vicious catch-22. Quick break. We'll come at the end of another day. Looking forward to heading outside. It's gorgeous out there. It was nice this morning. Went for a walk before work. I got into work early today so that I could get my show prep done so that I would have some time to head out and take a nice long walk. And I did. I got about 4,000 steps in. And so that was good. And came back nice and fresh and did the show. And so now I'm looking forward to hanging outside. I just love this weather. This is just, it is so invigorating to me. I know some of you like the cold weather, some like the cool weather, some like fall, I love summer. And this is my battery charging season. Gets me through the rest of the year. So I'm absolutely in my glory, and I hope it stays like this for a long, long time. And we deserved it. We've had a lot of rain. We've had a lot of wind and all that kind of stuff over the winter and the spring. So now it's time for all of us summer weather folks to rejoice. And And I plan to do so. Hopefully you'll do so as well. All right, got to get out of here. We've got ABC News followed by WBSM News and the ABC 6 Weather Center forecast. All that's coming straight at you. A lot of stuff on the trial going on up in the Boston area. Karen Reed trial on Howie Carr this afternoon.